On the morning of June 4th, the federal courthouse at 500 Pearl Street buzzed with a tense energy. Reporters lined the streets, their cameras fixated on the main entrance. The trial of Sean Combs, known as Diddy, had gripped international media, but until this day, it was seen as a complex, high-stakes legal battle, not a brewing catastrophe. At precisely 9 a.m., the trial entered its 13th day. Diddy, escorted by 2 court officers, looked visibly thinner, pale, and unusually emotionless. His defense was led by renowned criminal law expert Evan Marino. Across the aisle stood prosecutor Amy Roth, known for her aggressive style, leading the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York. The charges against Diddy were extensive: human trafficking, unlawful interstate enterprises, money laundering, sexual abuse, and witness intimidation. The case file spanned over 1,400 pages, with more than 60 witnesses scheduled. Key witness that day was Kareem Big K Davis, a former bodyguard who had worked for Diddy for over a decade. Davis, with a history of run-ins with the law himself, had secured a non-prosecution deal in exchange for testimony. He allegedly provided the recording proving Diddy personally ordered a victim's transportation across state lines, a serious federal offense. Presiding over the proceedings was Judge Arun Subramanian, the first Indian-American federal judge appointed to the Southern District of New York. Subramanian was widely respected for his precise, impartial style, unwavering in his willingness to reject demands from powerful entities lacking legal basis. He had overseen major cases and was seen as a pillar of fairness, refusing to allow the courtroom to become a media spectacle. The courtroom atmosphere seemed normal, but a subtle shift began about 12 minutes into the trial. Diddy started to sweat noticeably. A security officer observed his shirt sticking to his back despite the cool 21 degrees Celsius temperature. Almost simultaneously, a court staffer delivered a carefully sealed manila envelope to the judge. At 9:19 a.m., the judge received the envelope, conspicuously labeled Volmer 9, DOJ Internal Clearance. The term Volmer had never been mentioned before, nor was it part of the official case file. Every eye in the courtroom gravitated to the mysterious yellow envelope. Judge Subramanian, maintaining his calm, glanced at the envelope, nodded to the clerk, and announced a 15-minute recess to review the new information. Though the contents weren't disclosed, an audio technician later reported that Subramanian made an internal phone call to the DOJ to verify authorization for using the materials. An unusual step mid-trial. Diddy, meanwhile, began to exhibit strange behavior. A side camera captured him, shaking his head repeatedly. A witness recalled, he looked like he was arguing with someone no one else could see. A legal clerk clearly remembered hearing him mutter, "It can't come out. Not like this." At exactly 9:51 a.m., the session resumed. Judge Subramanian re-entered, holding the envelope. He placed it on the bench and announced, "We will now disclose the contents of the document marked as Volmer 9. According to confirmation from the DOJ, a portion of the material has been partially declassified for investigative purposes. If there are no objections, I will read it aloud within the next 10 minutes. In that very moment, everything spiraled out of control. Diddy looked up, his eyes wide with terror, his voice trembling but clear-cut through the silence. "Don't open it. I swear, someone will die if you touch that." He repeated the statement 3 times, the third time nearly shouting, leaving the courtroom stunned. Subramanian calmly replied, "This court does not operate under threats. If the defendant has a valid reason to object, his attorney may submit it appropriately." Attorney Marino immediately stepped forward to request a recess for a psychological evaluation, but Subramanian rejected the motion, declaring the defendant is not currently exhibiting signs of being unfit to stand trial. The session will proceed. At 10:36 a.m., court officers delivered the envelope to the bench. Subramanian took scissors and began cutting the seal. No one could have anticipated that just 1 second later, Sean Combs would erupt into a fury in the very place that symbolizes justice. Just as Judge Subramanian reached for the scissors, Sean Combs let out a guttural scream. The courtroom hadn't fully processed what was happening when he shot up from his seat, grabbed the microphone, and hurled it directly at the prosecution bench. The sharp impact echoed like a lightning strike. What followed was unimaginable. He vaulted over the barrier with astonishing speed, catching court officers off guard. Everyone watched, horrified, as Diddy charged straight toward the bench. He had no weapon, no sign of premeditation. Every move appeared instinctual, driven by something beyond rational control. A court clerk recalled, his face was completely pale, his eyes bulging, and his mouth was screaming something no one could understand. Diddy wrapped both hands tightly around Subramanian's neck from behind, yanked him backward off his chair, and in an instant, chaos erupted. Screams filled the air as security rushed toward the bench. But it was too late. Diddy slammed the judge to the floor and, using his full body weight, drove Subramanian's head forcefully into the edge of the bench. Blood sprayed, soaking the tile floor red. The sound of the blows echoed like a hammer striking cold iron, rhythmic, violent, relentless. Subramanian was defenseless, offering no resistance. A witness recounted, he didn't scream, didn't struggle, as if everything happened too suddenly or he'd lost consciousness from the very first blow. It took 3 officers simultaneously tackling Diddy to the ground to restrain him. Even then, Diddy kept screaming, not in words, but in guttural, hoarse shrieks that chilled everyone to the bone. By the time the emergency response team stormed in, Subramanian had no detectable heartbeat. CPR was administered for 7 minutes, but all efforts were in vain. His death was confirmed at the scene. This was the first time in modern American justice a federal judge had been killed in the middle of a trial by the defendant himself. One bizarre detail stunned everyone. No one believed Diddy was truly aware of what he had done. Witnesses insisted his eyes were completely vacant, devoid of life, as if he were controlled by an external force. One observer noted, it was like he was talking to a ghost that existed only in his mind. Even while handcuffed and escorted out, Diddy kept murmuring, "I had to do it. I had to. I had no other choice." His words ignited speculation about the true cause of his frenzy. Meanwhile, the envelope labeled Vulmer 9 remained untouched on the bench, soaked in blood, completely intact. No one dared go near it until the FBI arrived. As if it carried a curse, the entire courthouse plunged into crisis. Adjacent courtrooms were evacuated. Other judges escorted out. The 8th floor was swiftly locked down. A special investigation was launched immediately. Sean Combs, once at the pinnacle of cultural power, was now a prime murder suspect at the very heart of justice. Every question about motive Vulmer 9 and Diddy's apparent psychological breakdown began to unravel from his fateful scream. If he opens that, we're all going to die. As Diddy was escorted out, the 8th floor remained engulfed in shock. The murder of a federal judge, witnessed by dozens, was unprecedented in U.S. federal judiciary history. The FBI immediately cordoned off the crime scene. Forensics teams found more than just violence. Diddy's decisive, swift actions, with virtually no hesitation, caught the attention of investigators. One witness described, he charged in like he was being controlled. No glancing around, no shouting, no hesitation. It was as if a single command was echoing inside his head. This led the FBI to consider neurological or psychological influence. That afternoon, Diddy underwent blood tests. No drugs were found, but his adrenaline levels were abnormally high, consistent with extreme trauma or a fight-or-flight state, not typical rage. Security footage showed he was silent before acting, screamed only at the attack, then went still. When restrained, an FBI behavioral analyst concluded, "We're not ruling out the possibility that this was an instinctively triggered action rather than one directed by conscious reasoning." In the interrogation room, Diddy refused to cooperate, repeating only, "I wasn't in control of it. That wasn't me." Psychiatrists considered dissociative disorder or denial. But Diddy's tense expression, rapid heartbeat, and sweating hands suggested genuine distress. His pretrial behavior also raised flags. Prison staff recalled him being eerily silent, fists clenched, head down. An officer noted, "I've escorted all kinds of criminals, but I've never seen someone with such an eerily calm demeanor." An internal investigation revealed Diddy suffered insomnia for 3 nights before trial, pacing and talking to himself. Guards found his hands scratched and bleeding, but he refused medical treatment. Despite this, his prior medical records showed no history of mental illness. A 2022 report confirmed he was mentally sound. This baffled specialists. His mother, Janice Combs, said, "My son would never do something like that unless someone forced him." His brother, Justin, recalled Diddy mentioning feeling watched and not in control of himself days before. At the crime scene, irregular signals from the courtroom's audio system led engineers to suspect possible external interference. A security guard near the judge's bench reported a faint click sound just before Diddy lunged out. With all these factors, the case shifted from a standard criminal proceeding to a comprehensive investigation into Diddy's mental state and potential influences. The FBI's internal report to the DOJ emphasized, this incident cannot be classified as a typical act of impulsive violence. There are clear indications of neurological interference or behavioral manipulation. The FBI's reconstruction of events aimed to answer why Diddy acted with such apparent loss of control. The deeper they delved, the more convoluted the hypotheses became. Years of fame, power, and secrets might have pushed Diddy to his mental limit. The trial laid bare parts of his life. He'd buried abuse allegations, ambiguous relationships. For 12 days, he sat silently, forced to hear former associates describe a darker, more fearsome version of him. An FBI psychologist noted that for someone with Diddy's dominant personality, public loss of control, combined with chronic insomnia, severe stress, and isolation, could shatter emotional resilience. His breakdown might be cumulative, not instantaneous. However, the terrifying precision and cold speed of his attack challenged this. As the sole explanation, given signs beyond a simple emotional breakdown, another theory emerged. Diddy might have been manipulated. A federal judge's death during trial could benefit a powerful hidden group. Judge Subramanian's principled refusal to withhold documents, particularly Volmer 9, might have threatened a major financial or political power. Was Diddy a tool, a link in a preset chain reaction? His close associates' past report, he always feared betrayal. They'll break me before I can tell the truth, now seems chillingly prescient. If true, the goal wasn't just murder, but to cause a disruption, indefinitely postponing the trial and burying further evidence. The trial was indeed frozen. This less discussed angle suggested an underlying mental disorder, a personality disorder, dissociation, or PTSD, though not in official records. Sources mention Diddy underwent private treatment in Miami in 2020, disguised as rehab. Someone working on his last music project noted his insomnia, sudden disappearances, and once, seeing him stare at a wall for hours. If these were signs of illness, the courtroom incident could be a suppressed collapse erupting. Forensic psychologists suspected a temporary dissociative state where the mind disconnects from action, leading to automaton-like behavior with no recollection. While rare, it's documented in violent cases. The weakness is identifying a powerful enough trigger for such a profound loss of control in a man known for it. This possibility suggested Diddy's act wasn't external, but deeply personal, an event, memory, or private psychological reaction. When Subramanian announced the trial would continue, despite his attorney's pleas, Diddy lost composure. A family member noted he hates feeling powerless, despises it. Perhaps, when his last shred of autonomy was removed, he plunged over the edge. Combining elements, no single cause is definitive. This is no ordinary criminal case. The judge's death, Diddy's inexplicable actions, and the eerie silence have strained the legal system. The FBI's independent unit solely on this case has made no public announcements. An industry insider revealed, if the reason Diddy killed wasn't from his own volition, it may be a scenario we've never seen before. To understand the outburst, investigators examined Diddy's isolated weeks before trial. Since his late April arrest, he'd been in isolation for over a month, with minimal contact. Prison staff reported he refused food for days, only drinking water, and his sleep was fragmented. Some nights, he'd suddenly scream unintelligibly, then pant until morning. The prison doctor noted his nerves were stretched tight like a violin string, and he stared blankly, as if waiting for a crucial word. Diddy twice self-inflicted injuries, scratching his wrist and banging his head, refusing treatment. A piece of paper found under his pillow on May 29th, in messy handwriting, read, "They won't let me live. They don't need me to speak up. If I stay silent, they leave me alone. If I talk, they erase me from the game." An FBI analyst noted these words were characteristic of someone hunted, but the who remained unclear. Diddy, typically resilient to pressure, faced a strict legal system with digital evidence and dozens of witnesses, leaving him no escape. A former bodyguard, loyal for 15 years, said Diddy seemed drained of all energy. He had withdrawn from the spotlight, sitting alone in the studio, just staring. His younger brother, Justin, recalled a chilling 3 a.m. call. "He called me at 3 a.m. asking if I believed people could control minds." Justin noticed Diddy's voice trembling for the first time. Diddy also changed his studio locks 3 times without theft. Prison records showed Diddy hardly inquired about the trial. He never requested documents, contested charges, or discussed defense strategies. A defense attorney remarked, "He didn't care about winning or losing. At times, I thought he believed he would never leave this place, even if found innocent." Around this time, his behavior changed dramatically. He wrote extensively in notebooks, on toilet paper, on book edges, fragmented paragraphs. When things repeat, it's not because of memory, but because someone wants you to remember. "I'm no longer myself. Something is wearing my face." Many suspected dissociative identity disorder, a loss of self-sense common in severe neurological disorders under prolonged stress. The FBI didn't rule out medication. A secret June 1st blood test found a strong sedative not issued by the prison, raising questions about its source and connection to his turmoil. However, some cynical observers, like a former communications team member, believed Diddy was conscious, that his whole life has been a stage. They suggested the outburst was a calculated decision to derail the trial. Whether true loss of control or deliberate act, Diddy was not the man the public knew. Every sign indicated he was losing his grip. Judge Subramanian's death didn't start with the blow. It began in Diddy's sleepless jail nights. When he silently acknowledged something only he understood, all doors had been locked tight. There's only one left. Diddy's murder of Judge Subramanian shook the federal courthouse and the entire American justice system. Within 2 hours, the DOJ ordered an unprecedented suspension of all ongoing entertainment industry trials in the Southern District of New York. Leaked images showed the sealed building, Subramanian's body on a stretcher, and Diddy's expressionless face. Inside, the atmosphere was frozen. Judge Subramanian, the region's shield of justice, was confirmed dead. caused complex traumatic brain injury, hemorrhaging, and cardiac arrest. He died fulfilling his duty. His sister's social media statement, "My brother died because he refused to turn his back on the truth. He died because he believed in justice," became a symbol for debates on how power confronts truth. Diddy was transferred through a secret tunnel to a high-security facility in Colorado, denied lawyer contact due to system safety. He vanished from public view, with no statements or new images. Reports of his mental instability and inability to recall the trial circulated, but the FBI never confirmed them, keeping psychological assessments confidential. The investigation expanded beyond Diddy to his entire network, business partners, former assistants, and behind-the-scenes aides from 2010. Bank accounts, shell companies, and music contracts were scrutinized. While some thought the case ended with Diddy's charges, it was just the beginning. The DOJ formed Project Latch to clarify his actions and determine if an underground power system protected, manipulated, and sacrificed him to keep secrets. Analysts suggested the Diddy case could expose other powerful figures in entertainment's elusive world of money, power, and silence. A veteran journalist observed, "If Diddy was just a lone pawn, then the matter would have ended here. But if he is merely one link in a bigger chain, what lies ahead is far more terrifying." The Southern District Federal Courthouse closed its 8th floor for 3 weeks for crime scene handling, security checks, and high-profile personnel review. Within the first week, 18 reform proposals emerged, notably strengthening staffing for psychological disorders during trials. The social impact was profound. Talk shows and conferences questioned, "What did we miss? How could a defendant bypass security and murder a judge?" Opinions varied. Some blamed complacency, others media pressure, many Diddy's own decision. But Subramanian's death left a huge void. It was a symbol of principle, zero tolerance for wrongdoing, regardless of offender. A colleague said, "He always believed that justice has no exceptions, and that belief was what led to his death." Diddy now carries an unimaginable charge. His image, once an icon, exists only in criminal reports, suspicious analyses, and a haunting public question. If the courthouse itself can't guarantee safety, where can justice truly be upheld? The Sean Diddy Combs case may fade from headlines, but it remains a deep wound in the justice system and American public. A judge murdered, a celebrity killer, a courtroom turned crime scene. Countless questions remain unanswered or unspoken. For decades, Diddy symbolized the American dream, but another image has emerged: dark, unstable, contradictory. What puzzles the public isn't just the crime, but the feeling they never understood the real man. In internal DOJ and FBI meetings, Sean Combs is a case file code in a complex investigation, where any hypothesis is possible, nothing certain. The case can't be closed. Despite bloodshed, isolation, and sealed evidence, the investigation continues. Financial connections, shell companies, secret agreements, music contracts are all clues to a bigger power system, of which Diddy is just the visible tip. Many call it the domino case. One piece fell, no one knows what's next. For the public, it's a bitter awakening. Superstars are seen through screens, stages, social media, edited, directed, polished. But under the brutal light of a murder case, all facades fall away. Only a man remains, an act of violence, and consequences he could never have foreseen. Is Diddy a villain, a victim, a pawn? The truth now lies only in his mind, inaccessible. Those close to him are silent. Supporters keep their distance. He's a name in forensic reports, doctors describing detachment, non-interaction, no intentional response. Justice, represented by the court, was defeated not by guns, but by bare hands. No one expected it, no one can forget it. And when the file's close, one question echoes: do we truly understand what goes on inside a person's mind before they lose their sanity?